Ask Me Anything by Redical. I'm a Rubik's Cube Speedsolver. Preparing for the World Championship this weekend. Ask me anything. I've been solving the Rubik's Cube and other similar puzzles for fun for around 8 years now. The hobby has allowed me to make tons of new friends and travel all around the world, attending competitions and visiting places I never would have expected. This weekend I'll be both competing in and helping run the World Championship, which is being held in Melbourne from the 11-14th of July. I also have Jack Cai, U/Jack3BLD, here with me, who's the current world record holder for solving the Rubik's Cube blindfolded. He'll be hanging around and can answer any questions you might have for him. Speedcubing is a pretty niche thing, so I'm always keen to shed more light on it. We're excited to answer any questions y'all might have about our weird, but kinda wonderful hobby. I know the basic method to solve a cube, and if I try hard I can maybe do it in 1 minute. How do you go from 1 minute to 5 seconds? Do you use another method than the basic one, or is it just purely training to be as fast as possible? There are a lot of elements that go into getting faster. The main thing is just practicing a lot. But if you want to get anywhere close to 5 seconds you'll need to learn to solve a lot more efficiently, using a method better suited for speed solving. The How to Get Faster page on the r/Cubers wiki is a good resource for getting faster, as is Cubeskills. What exactly do you need for winning the competition? Concentration, more practice than others before competition, fingers flexibility, or what? I mean, when you lose to some other guy, what do you think? I think I lost concentration in that moment, or I think I need more practice before competition. It's a combination of factors. The most important thing is absolutely practice. I'm okay at cubing, but there are others who've practiced far more and are far faster than me. They beat me at a competition 10 times out of 10. However, between cubers of similar speed, nerves, concentration, and luck all come into play. There are probably a dozen people who have a real shot at winning the World Championship this weekend. But the winner will come down to who holds their nerve the best, and, admittedly, doesn't get too unlucky. Is there any drama or controversy in the cubing world? Seems like all niche hobbies have some. Is there a villain in speed solving? Is there any technique that is considered borderline cheating, or got banned? There are a few videos about cubing controversies on the Cubing Historian YouTube channel. Lol. What is your fastest time? 5.46 seconds. For the original 3x3 cube. Do you watch this to get into the zone? Holy shit. No, but my day just got better. I'm a fellow speed solver in middle school. I won a Rubik's Cube contest they held in the lunchroom. I finished in just over 3 minutes, beating my nemesis and a real jerk, Steve Lusk. So I also have participated in the glory. My question: how much of a contest is luck, meaning the cube is mixed up in a way that makes it easier to solve? Is everyone's cube mixed up identically? Bonus question: has this ability ever gotten you attention from chicks? Because this really hasn't happened for me yet. I'm thinking when I break 1 minute the flood will come. Edit. An extra word. At competitions, everyone gets the same set of scrambles. That means that the cubes are just as difficult for everyone. That said, there is still an element of luck involved. Everyone's going to solve the cube in a slightly different way, and depending on the moves you do at the start of a solve, the rest of the solve might be more or less difficult, which is essentially just luck. You can even skip steps. Those parts of the cube happen to be solved when you reach that step. So there's certainly some luck, but we try to make it as fair as possible. It's gotten some attention, but mostly just as a kind of conversation starter. You're not gonna get girls by just sitting there cubing, regardless of how fast you are, haha. So a bunch of people get together and championship belts are handed out to whoever can solve it the fastest that day? I mean, that's a simplified version. But yes, essentially, in a given round of a competition, every competitor does 5 solves, which are timed. People's averages are ranked, and the fastest competitors move on to the next round. A competition will have 1-4 rounds of each event being held. There are multiple events held at competitions, like in athletics, and the competitor with the fastest average in the final round is the winner. We don't have championship belts, but there are trophies and prize money at larger competitions. I've still simplified a few things, but let me know if you want more details. There are lots of generic 3x3 cubes out there. Do you have any design preferences for performance, like no stickers, rounded corners, special lubricant for the core, etc? Do you have to use a specific model for competition? I prefer styculous puzzles. Yeah, they're lower maintenance and I find it easier to find pieces during a solve on them. Most high-end 3x3 cubes these days have very similar design features though, rounded center pieces, squared off corners, etc. Most cubers will also use special lubricant for the core. Yep, you can find a variety of silicone lubes for sale at any online cube store, and the thicker weights are ideal for use on the core. No, cubers are free to use any model they'd like. We're required to bring our own puzzles for use in competition, and so long as they abide by certain guidelines, we can use whatever we want. Yo, you probably solve a ton of different shapes and styles of Rubik's cubes. Which was the easiest to solve and master after the original 3x3? Which one is the most fun for you to solve? 2x2. It's essentially just an easier version of 3x3. Megaminx. It's the dodecahedron one pictured in my proof picture. It's a lot of fun, and definitely the one I'm best at. Welcome fellow cuber. My fastest is 9.97 seconds, but my average floats around 16-17 seconds. I'm slowly working towards breaking the sub 15 barrier but having a lot of issues between the cross and F2L. What kinds of things did you practice to smooth the transition between those steps? My F2L look ahead is pretty good and then my LPLL execution stinks. I know that's something I need to speed up, but wanted to get your opinion on that transition. That is, how often do you do X cross or do you always have your first F2L pair in mind when solving the cross? Also, are you color neutral? I'm not color neutral, but I should be. Everyone should be, at least. Everyone who uses CFOP. I plan my first pair in inspection something like half the time if I'm just doing mindless practice, and almost all the time when I'm focused. I probably do crosses something like 1/20 solves. I'm not sure. I haven't actually tracked that. Honestly, the vast majority of my improvement has come from just doing thousands and thousands of solves. I haven't done much practice targeting specific parts of my solves, but I might well have improved faster if I had. I'd recommend you film an average of 12 or something and ask for tips. It's a lot easier to give advice when people can see what your weaknesses are. Do you find the techniques used to solve cubes help you solve other problems in general day-to-day living? Not particularly. I can memorize really long strings of letters and numbers because of blindfolded solving, but the skills involved in solving cubes quickly aren't super transferable. See you on Thursday, James. Doubt you would remember me, haha. We met at Batam last year. When are you staying around Melbourne until? I don't remember everyone I met at Batam, but I might recognize you, haha. Anyway, I'm leaving Melbourne next Tuesday. Are there issues with competitors using performance enhancing drugs? Do you have to submit to any sort of doping protocols? Not currently, but I could see this potentially being an issue moving forwards. Drugs like beta blockers or Adderall could theoretically help cubers get better results, and ideally we would ban the use of drugs like these. Cubing is currently small enough that it hasn't been a big deal, but as the hobby continues to grow, I expect we'll have to deal with this at some point. That said, there are issues with trying to control the use of these substances, chief among which is age. A lot of fast cubers are young teenagers or children, and forcing them to submit themselves to drug tests doesn't sit right with a lot of people. If your last layer has an H shape oriented, what's the one to orient the remaining opposing unoriented cubies? Assuming you know how to read notation. RURUMURUR. Is it true that there's a system to solving Rubik's cubes? Where did you learn that? Absolutely. Figuring out how to solve it all by yourself is really challenging, so most people don't do that, preferring to learn from a tutorial. I personally learned from my brother, but these videos are really solid tutorials. Once you learn a method, solving the cube is fairly trivial, and the real challenge is getting faster. Hi, Congrats for the qualification and I wish you the best with your championship. Are you getting late from being fast at Rubik's Cube? It's sometimes a conversation starter, haha. Any cool spots you like to cube at? I personally love grabbing a larger sized cube and going camping or to the beach. I used to take a cube with me everywhere and have lots of pictures of me solving it in forests, up sitting on top of rocks, etc. Nowadays I quite like sitting somewhere in town and solving it. I like seeing people's reactions. Kids are especially fun. Adults are interested but I think often feel it's rude to stare, whereas kids are fascinated by it. Just wondering, how do you define the highest degree of scrambling of a 3x3 cube? Assuming something like this is even quantifiable. I'm a beginner myself and can clock in under 25 seconds. This question has always intrigued me though. Good question. You could consider a puzzle fully scrambled when all possible states are equally likely to have been reached. You can do this two ways. First, you can just apply a ton of random moves. The more random moves you apply, the more even the distribution of possible states becomes. I don't recall the exact number of moves you need to apply before it can really be considered to be close to a random state, but I read the number a while ago and it was fairly unreasonable. Second, you can use a random state scrambler. Most good cubing timers, Xtimer for example, include random state scramblers. A random state scrambler generates a completely random cube state, finds an efficient solution to that state, then inverts the solution. That way you have a short sequence of moves that result in a completely random state, and can be considered to be the highest degree of scrambled. What else them fingers do? Semicolon. I'm building a Rubik's Cube solver. It's 6-stepper motor powered to rotate each face, coupled with a graphical representation of the cube, using a Raspberry Pi. I'm currently working on algorithms to solve it, can solve myself in 50 seconds. You have posted info on solving more efficiently, so I'll ask this instead. Do you think multiple people, say 50-100 people, could solve a cube at the same time? Look up Cosiemba. It's the standard algorithm for programmatic solving and it can solve any cube in 20 moves or less. What's your favorite color to complete? I start my solves on white almost every time, but this is a bad habit that I don't recommend. Apart from that, I don't have a favorite color to complete. Odd question, but it's a small world in a niche community. Is Brendan Valence McElhill still around the world champ scene? I was friends with him in school but haven't spoken to him since. But I knew he had entered and last I heard had won a world championship. Question 2. What was your progression from solving your first cube to entering comps? Haha, small world indeed. Yeah, I was hanging out with Brendan just a few days ago. A group of us were gonna go skydiving in Sydney but it got rained off. So yeah, he's still around and will be attending the world championship. But he isn't particularly competitive these days. I first solved a cube in 2011 and found it fascinating. I discovered the online community a bit over the next few years and got faster. But my interest came and went. I didn't cube much in 2013 and 2014. But in 2015 one of my friends, who I'd taught to cube initially, had gotten faster than me, so I got back to practicing with the aim of beating him. I attended my first competition later that year and haven't stopped since. How often do you lube your Rube? What method is best and why is it Ru? Thanks for watching this radical video. Subscribe for the best Reddit videos straight to your feed 3 times a day.